morning, everybody.
Good morning. It's so good to be here with everyone today.
It is.
It
It's a
was such a
beautiful
lovely
day.
service yesterday
Oh, it
with
was.
Mother's Day, and I hope everyone here had a happy Mother's Day. Whether you're a mother, a father, a caregiver, clergy, teachers, nurses, counselors, store clerks, police, firefighters, any of those people, community service volunteers. I hope you were appreciated yesterday.
I hope so too. It's because it's not just giving birth. We
Absolutely.
we give birth in so many different ways to so many different people and
Yes.
and or children. It's I remember substitute teaching, and it kind of put me in a mothering feel. So I wanted to help them. I wanted to fix all their little problems.
Well, and I think that's the nature of a nurturer. You want to not necessarily fix everything, but you want to make everything wonderful for them, warm, welcoming, loving, kindness. And we've been talking a lot about kindness recently, and I think that that works right into nurturing.
Absolutely.
We can change the world. Mothers, they rock the cradle. I mean, that's where we start, and with a good foundation you can do anything.
And mothers, or those that are other mothers, help form that foundation
The other
without
thing I
even
love,
knowing it.
right, and it's like families who are blended. I mean, you have children of your body and children of the heart.
I like it said that way.
Yes, because sometimes you choose your family, and that's wonderful, or they choose you, and that's even better.
Yes. 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 One of the things that I thought many years, Mother's Day should be every day. But then when Father's Day comes around, I will say the same thing. Every day should be Father's Day. It's not easy.
Absolutely. And in my last church, we had trouble with Father's Day and Mother's Day. We wanted to celebrate both, but by the time Father's Day rolled around, the choir usually wasn't singing anymore, and everybody was gone for the summer. So it was kind of ho hum. And fathers deserve just as much recognition because they nurture too, but in a much different way. And so we ended up choosing a day and doing celebration of the Christian home, a Christian family. And it's all about all of us. I don't know how many times my children have nurtured me.
Oh,
The roles reverse.
absolutely. 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 So, Debbie, you mentioned some of those categories of taking care of others with kindness and nurturing. And I read an article yesterday about foster parents, and I thought, wow, that is an amazing kindness, because you never know from child to child what what you're getting, I guess, getting into, what is their background, and that nurturing role just takes
Well,
over.
I have to say, I was a foster parent, and my foster daughter was a true blessing to me. It wasn't just me blessing her, but it was about her blessing me because she changed my heart and my ideas about so many things. And I grew so much as a person having her a part of my life. And she's still a huge part of our life. She's our other daughter, one that we didn't count on or didn't expect, but nonetheless we love. And so if anyone's thinking about that out there, it's a true blessing. It's probably some of the hardest work you'll ever do, but it's the most rewarding.
I'm sure it is. Both.
Yes.
The hardest work and the most rewarding. I had another mother in my life when I was growing up, and she was a school teacher, and somehow or another she was related to the family through my mother's side of the family. And I know I used to give her birthday cards and Christmas cards, and I would always put on the envelope to my other mother. And and I was very blessed to have her for 2 years as a teacher. And we had fourth grade and then a split fourth, fifth grade. And I got to have her both years. We also had aunts and cousins.
I was just going to say my aunts were like confidants, when mother and I were at crossways, and that happens in the life of a family. And my aunts were there and they listened without issuing judgment, or they made me feel like I was heard when I felt mom wasn't listening at all. And so I think we need other people in our lives in addition to moms. Moms fill most of the role, but they're not perfect. They can't do it all. And I was grateful to have my aunts.
I was too. I had one of my most memorable, moving experiences with one of my aunts and uncles in a little country church. And I may have told this story before, but I had never, maybe I had seen an altar call, but I had never been involved in an altar call before. And it was, I don't know, it seemed like the church was packed. I'm sure it wasn't, because it was the little country church, but they both got up, and my aunt looked at me and just touched my shoulder, and they both went down to the altar or started to go down to the altar. And I found myself on my feet very quickly, following them. And I will never, ever forget how important that time was for me to have been led by both of them into a new depth of something that I didn't even understand.
Yeah, and another group of people that I didn't think about at the time, but my youth group leaders were very pivotal in my Christian development. And being part of a medium-sized youth group, it was we nurtured each other, but the leaders created an environment where we could do that safely and without judgment. And I think that is so important. And it's such a gift to know how to do that. I don't.
The encouragement is what we all need.
Yes.
I think that simple touch on my shoulder, that was probably the biggest encouragement that I'd had that whole year. I just, because of what it did for me. I was a caregiver for a lot of years after I got out of the retail world. And that's kind of like turning the tables on parenting, because I was at least 20 years younger than all of the people that I helped. And they were more like parents, and yet the relationship that is built between a caregiver and a client, it is nurturing. It is encouraging. And I think with all but one or two of the people that I helped, God was always in the conversation.
Well, and I look at all the people that I met here and in my last church. There are certain situations where you go from a husband-wife relationship to a caregiver-patient relationship. It's a transition. It's not that you're not still married, but it's vastly different when that change occurs. And it takes an incredible amount of bravery and uh, fortitude that I can't even begin to imagine for people to go forth in that particular role. They've gone from what they thought would be something different to something new. It's not that it's worse, it's not that it's better, or it's just different. And how can you live into that and provide for that person you love?
And you know, I had several different situations where people would say to me, either at the time or later, days later, why didn't you do that for your dad? Why did you make him carry his dishes to the sink? Why did you not make his bed? And my response was, you know, as a caregiver, you can't do it all. You have to let them have all of the abilities that they have. You have to let them continue. That's part of the nurturing, that's part of the caring and encouraging. You start taking away things, not just from the elderly, but if you start taking things away from kids and you don't encourage them to do their own, clear the dishes off the table, make your own bed. May not be perfect, may not be grandma inspectable, but they need the encouragement to do what they are still capable of doing, or if it's a child, to stretch them and help them to learn. So whether you're a caregiver for someone outside of your family, or you are a mother, the other mother, a teacher, we have to encourage and treat everybody with the respect and the love. Let
And
them
love,
move forward.
love is sometimes helping someone feel needed. And I think that, the word caregiver seems to lead everyone to think that you have to do it all for them. And it's like mothers and fathers that do it all for their kids. You can't do that and let them feel independent. I was ready to leave the nest. My parents gave me enough independence, or desire to do things, and required us to do things as part of the family, that I felt ready to go. And my parents encouraged that. And I think it's hard sometimes for parents to let go that empty nest or that. And then, I can remember the adjustment my mom made. She retired and dad was already retired, and she was home with him 24/7. And she said, I just don't know. I felt like she was going to knock him off any day, And so I said, Mom, you need to find something to do. And I said, check out at the church if there's somewhere you can fit in there. Go out to lunch with the girlfriends, from your work and things like that. And so eventually, little bit at a time, she joined the altar guild. She went to Sunday school. She went to lunch 3 or 4 times a month with girlfriends and with people that she used to work with. And she eventually found her way. But her life had been so taken up with taking care of us as kids, taking care of
Right.
my dad, going to work and being responsible there. And then all of a sudden, you're home 24/7. Even though you love this person, there are little things that get on your nerves after a while.
Right. Right. Oh, and I thinking about where people live, and so we go out to Eastland Court Apartments once a month for devotions, and it does my heart good to see the camaraderie, the support, the laughter, and between the women and the men, some of the men that come, and that's a totally different kind of nurturing, those kind of friendships and mothering, so to speak.
Sharing a common interest, sharing passions, sharing memories.
I don't think we ever stop wanting to help other people. And honestly, when I help other people, it probably helps me more than it does them. Gives me a happy place.
Well, it's a community, a place where you belong. I sometimes think people lose that sense of belonging, and we search for it, I hope. Or we should encourage others to search for it. And that's about being a welcoming church. It's about being a welcoming community of faith. Those are all important nurturing skills.
And it doesn't take a lot to develop those. It just takes a kind heart and
Yes.
putting others first before ourselves.
And sometimes we do it without thinking. It becomes a habit, and it's not a burden. It's not another responsibility. It's something we want to do. It's within us.
Yesterday when Thomas came down and we blessed him for this new journey of going into ministry, and Donis came forward, and I could see that she was a little concerned, a little bit struggling to not have something to hold on to, and my automatic caregiving went right in, kicked in, and I could tell just by giving her my arm to hold on to that she was going to need some assistance to get back to the seat where she was. And so I just quickly asked Tad if he would take her back. And I mean, that is a great act of compassion and kindness. Just being
Well,
able to help people like that.
and the thing about it is they might not need that help tomorrow. They might not need that help next week. But in that moment, she needed that help. And so being able to read the person's body language or feel their presence and their anxiety, that's a huge thing. We have to have our radar on all the time.
We do. We do. And I think as mothers, we have our radar on all the time. And certainly as a caregiver, I know anytime I see somebody that is need, my hand automatically goes out or grab the walker and support it, or it just happens. It's just ingrained.
Well, and she still took that leap of courage to come forward and be there. I mean, she stepped out on faith to do that, to know that we would love her and care for her in that moment. So it took courage on her part. And that's amazing right there.
Right. And I can't wait to talk to Thomas and share with him the importance of having Donna's there to help support him. Because I doubt that he knows her history with the church. And I just thought that was very, very, very heartwarming to have her come forward and help support him.
And generationally, to see where we've been and where we are and what that takes to grow those kinds of people. Thomas has grown hugely. I mean, and I haven't been here that long. And when I first started coming in 22, he was sitting in the pew in front of me every Sunday. And he just kind of sat there. He turned around. He always greeted me each Sunday. But it was, you don't get to know someone. And it's hard. Some people are introverted to a point where they can't initiate. And so it's been amazing to see him grow in that area.
Yes, he was very shy and guarded, I would say.
Right.
And now he's just out there being one of us.
Yes. And I think we're gonna be amazed at what God can do there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So we also today, since we have a new Pope, I say we because he is the Pope for the world. One of the things when Debbie and I were talking, and I said, "Oh, I want to share," because I'm not sure if everyone is aware of the phrase in the Apostles' Creed or the affirmation of faith that is said in Methodist churches, but the phrase is, "I believe in the Holy Catholic Church." I always thought, why am I believing in the Catholic faith? Because I'm Methodist. That's not who I am. So I kept wondering why the reference to the Catholic Church in the Methodist affirmation of faith. And then over the years, it was explained to me in different ways, and it was just like, this is just not making sense to me. I'm a Methodist. I'm not a Catholic. And so then I saw this explanation and everything just seems to come to me when I need the information. So this came, and it says, to understand the difference between the local church and the universal church. And I thought, aha, there's my answer right there. One must get a basic definition of each. The local church is a group of professing believers in Jesus Christ who meet in some particular location on a regular basis. Methodist. The universal church is made up of all believers in Jesus Christ worldwide. So instead of saying the Holy Catholic Church, it could be the Church Universal. So I don't know if anybody else had questions, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I just hadn't paid attention enough earlier, but anyway, I wanted to share that with everybody today.
Well, I've always wondered about that, but I knew, because someone had eventually explained the fact that it meant universal. But to me, my great-grandmother was a practicing Catholic, and she would always come spend Lent with us. And so, little bitty thing, she wore a hat every Sunday, had gloves, a dress. You had to have a dress to wear to church. And she was so faithful. She never tried to convert us. She never tried to do any of that, but she lived it. Her example was what was important. And to me, I've always kind of felt connected to the Catholic Church because she would take us to Mass with her. And we would, it was kind of a spectacle compared to what I was used to. And so I was quite entertained. And I can remember she would give us the elbow when it was time to kneel or to stand or, so, I mean, and it was all in Latin at the time. So we didn't understand a word. And, but I've always felt connected to that. There was such a spiritual quality about the Catholic Mass. And, when I always am fascinated by the conclave and by the change in the Pope and the expectations that the living Spirit, the Holy Spirit, will come to each and every one of them when they cast their vote and guide them in their selection, because people are out there trying to predict who's going to be the Pope and, oh, it's going to be this. It's kind of like treating it like some kind of political thing. And it probably is maybe to some degree, but I think that every time they choose someone unexpected because the Spirit works within that place. They call and they beckon to him and the Spirit fills them. And so I think we can learn from that when we call and beckon this in our own worship or private meditation time, when we want to be filled with the Holy Spirit, to have him help us live out our lives.
It was interesting on the news yesterday. They were talking about his boyhood home, and that Pope Leo's boyhood home is going to be open to the public. And it gave a short little story about a couple of his friends when he was in first grade said to him, "One day you will be the Pope," just because of his dedication and his demeanor. And I thought that was really interesting.
Well, yes, and when he would play, his brother said that he would open up the ironing board and he would give communion with cookies and he would play that as a child. He was the youngest of the three, and they were out playing something else, cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians or whatever, and he's there giving communion at the ironing board. And I thought, that's really a special little memory that they share.
That is. So there's a little bit of history about the Pope Leos, and I just want to say Pope Francis, known as the People's Pope. I think that's the most impressive title that a pope could have. Pope Leo the 13th in the late 1800s was known for focusing on social inequality and labor's rights during the industrialization period of workers. And that was one of the reasons that the new Pope, Pope Leo the 14th, and being the firstborn American Pope, the first American born, let me get the words in the right order. But I thought it was interesting that Pope Leo the 14th was influenced by artificial intelligence, said that was at the heart of his name choice. And I was like, what? Born Robert Francis Prevost, the new pope chose his papal name in reference to Pope Leo the 13th, 1810-1903, who presided over the Catholic Church during the Industrial Revolution, which ushered in massive social upheaval. Pope Leo the 14th sees the AI boom as a similar moment of rapid societal change. And when I read that, I thought, he also is a pope for the people and wanting to carry on and work to work for the social justice issues, the inequality issues. So I
His
think,
life, his life as a missionary in Peru was
oh yes,
amazing as well. I mean, God is obviously using him.
and I think the entire world will be happy and benefit, not just the Catholic Church.
We are
So
part of the Catholic Church, the universal church.
we
We are
are.
all part of that. And so I think that, as we do ecumenical work with other denominations, we're working within the universal church. We're called to do that. We're not called to fight amongst each other. We're called to work with each other and nurture each other and encourage each other. So a bigger global view.
That's exactly right. And our time is up for today. That went really fast for some reason today. I'm not sure.
We
So
are happy that you joined us today, and please leave us a comment, and we encourage you to join activities.
yes,